Well, you could think about the spirit of God the Father as an imagistic representation of the collective spirit of the group. You don't want to make the assumption that the people who were our forebears were stupid just because they thought using metaphors that aren't the same as our metaphors. It's like the story in the second part of Harry Potter. The Phoenix stands in the same relationship to Dumbledore that Christ stands in relationship to God the Father in Christianity. In Sleeping Beauty, the prince also represents the woman's own consciousness. The consciousness is presented very frequently in stories as symbolically masculine, as it is with the logos idea. There's the first human being, Cain. I told you that the Mesopotamians thought that mankind was made out of the blood of the worst demon that the great goddess of chaos could imagine. Well, the first human being is a murderer, and not only a murderer of his own brother. And you might think, well, maybe that's a little bit too much to bear. And then you might think, yeah, and maybe it's true too. We do have time for some questions. Maybe we'll have questions until someone crazy grabs the microphone. And
as you were talking, I was reminded of something I wrote in The End of Faith. And I just want to read this to you because this is, I believe, this counterpoint to this way of talking about mythology and stories and archetypes is still valid. I walked into the cookbook section of a Barnes & Noble with my eyes closed, grabbed a book, and opened it at random and looked at the first recipe I saw. And the book turned out to be a book called The Taste of Hawaii, New Cooking from the Crossroads of the Pacific. And therein I discovered an as yet uncelebrated mystical treatise. While it appears to be a recipe for wok-seared fish and shrimp cakes with Ogo tomato relish, we need only study its list of ingredients to know that we are in the presence of an unrivaled spiritual intelligence. 1 snapper fillet cubed, 3 teaspoons of chopped scallions, salt and freshly ground pepper. There's a long list of ingredients. And then I go through with a mystical interpretation of this recipe. So when I say the snapper fillet, of course, is the individual himself, you and I, awash in the sea of existence. And here we find it cubed, which is to say that our situation must be remedied in all 3 dimensions of body, mind, and spirit. Now you have 3 teaspoons of chopped scallions. This further partakes of the cubic symmetry, suggesting that that which we need add to each level of our being by way of antidote comes likewise in equal proportions. The import of the passage is clear. The body, mind, and spirit need to be tended with the same care. I go on, and this is all bullshit because it's meant to be bullshit. But my point is, you can do this with anything. And religions have been doing this for millennia with specific books. Most of these books are profoundly mediocre. The fact that most people, most of the time, have found profound meaning in much of this work is not proof otherwise. I mean, again, if you found me a culture that was doing what I just did to a recipe in a cookbook, the fact that they had gone generation after generation enamored of that interpretation wouldn't prove anything. That's the problem I'm having here.
I know it's a problem separating the wheat from the chaff, and I think you did a great job of satirizing that in what you wrote, but that doesn't help us solve the problem of the fact that there is value in great fiction.
But it's not the value of telling you how the cosmos works or what is likely to happen in the future. It's not a surrogate for a scientific theory about anything.
The thing about the fundamentalists, say, the Christian fundamentalists who insist upon a literal understanding of the biblical stories, is that they don't know what literal means. And actually, they're implicitly assuming that only scientific fact can be true, attempt constantly to force these stories into a scientific framework where they do not belong.
A good part of my sanity rests on the belief that there is a just God, and if there is a just God, there's an afterlife.
Forget about the disrespect. Facts don't care about your feelings.
What's up, skeptics? It's Thomas Westbrook. Thank you so much for watching, and I want to give a very special thank you to all of my patrons who support my work and make all of these videos possible. If you would like to support my work promoting science, skepticism, and critical thinking, you can go to patreon.com/holykoolaid, where you can support my work on a per episode basis. And as always, dare to be curious, but don't drink the Kool-Aid.